there's a pandemic and we're hearing about, you know, a little flu infection in a village in India, whereas 100 years ago you'd never hear about it.
Yeah.
You could have an entire plague in India and no one in Spain would have even heard about it until possibly, you know, someone had like traveled with the news of this, oh, there was this plague in India. But we're in this huge structure of electricity and it functions like the ocean. And now it's like, okay, everything that happens in one spot instantly goes in the other spot. So yeah, like for DCR, we take a lot of inspiration from Marshall McLuhan's work on the effect of media and what it does to the human psyche. But I mean, Christ called fishermen. He called maritime people. So to say that it's wrong is not necessarily correct.
I like that. Hello. This is we're talking about rabbits. Guys, rabbits jump around on the internet, their ideas. We take them apart. We don't run down the rabbit hole sometimes. Today's guest, she's a cultural historian. That's what I call her. She's a writer. She lives in Australia. She works on a press on Telegraph called the Sandwich Press. And she writes for Dragon Common Room with Rachel Fulton Brown, who is a pretty accomplished and kind of a badass professor at the University of Chicago, traditional Catholic, who writes all about the Holy Theotokos, Mother Mary, and also is bringing sexy back in the form of enchantment. So we talked today about a whole host of things. But fundamentally, she takes the lightometer test toward the end. Stay tuned for that as we get into all kinds of things from the apocalypse to what it means to be traditional to probably the coolest part of the conversation about what it means to earn respect in a new world culture. Check it out on WAWTAR today. Kilts Khalfan from Australia. Kilts, so you're back, and I'm trying to start all of my podcasts now with toast because we got a restaurant, in the Georgian tradition, and I just got back, and our guests should know about that. It's also a shameless plug, and I'm actually drinking a type of cognac that I brought back with me from the Georgian Republic.
Oh, nice.
So a toast. And let's do this toast to this chasm that opened up between men and women.
Mm-hmm.
It's closing on certain little portals, little corners of the interwebs. I think you guys are doing something to close that terrible chasm that was killing both of us, man and woman. So to the destruction of the chasm and the proper reorientation. And to you coming on the show, Gagi Marjos. That's to you the victory in Georgian. Gagi Marjos.
Gagi Marjos.
That's pretty good. You said it right off the bat. So
because I'm a wog.
So here's where we're gonna end because I want to give you the lightometer exam.
All right.
You're like, what?
I didn't study for this.
You didn't. It's easy though. It's 5 questions.
All right.
When you're done, you'll be able to place yourself in the context of this conversation we're always having on our podcast about old world, new world. We'll find out how old world you are and how new world you are. Yeah.
That's cool.
So last time we spoke, I didn't really fully understand, but you were doing a video with us. I call you when people ask me, I say there's this famous writer with the Sandwich Press that out of Australia.
I'm not famous.
I don't know.
Thank God.
Know if I agree with that. You are fundamentally crazy in a perfect way. I think you guys are doing something amazing. You've taken to some video now and doing some work with RFB, Rachel Fulton Brown.
Yes.
So come on,
The professor.
would you just, in your way, tell us what this is and why you call yourself Drakes and what Dragon Common Room is? Don't worry, it's not a pitch. I just want to get it. I want to get into it. But I think that's my first question. Starts with, what the hell are you guys doing over there?
What's going on in there, Jerry? The living light of the Godhead. So the professor, Rachel Fulton Brown, she started Dragon Common Room because that was her way of setting up an online classroom. And she's kind of pushed medieval monastic culture into the digital space. So she set this place up for everyone to come in, post, share memes, debate each other. And because she's a fencer, so to sell as well. So we've got to salute our opponent, and we have battles with each other, and we share Christian stuff, and we share art that we're working on and all kinds of things. She called it Drake's because, well, there was a few reasons why she called it the Dragon Common Room, but it's a reference to a piece of scripture which I can't remember the number of now, but it's praise the Lord, all the earth and the dragons from the deep, right? So we've got it on the Dragon Common Room website. But basically, the idea is that she has wanted to get Westerners plugged back into the Christian imagination in the way that medieval Western Europe was, and so encourage this kind of reimagining of Christendom as a monastic exercise, but also as a creative exercise, and to start working on poetry and storytelling again. And so, of course, fairy tales. I mean, everyone loves a dragon, and that's a big part of the Christian story as well. The dragons are all over the place in the scriptures. So we've got all of these kinds of elements which are together. But it's her brainchild. She collected us like little orphans from the interwebs.
Isn't there one giant story being told? Aren't you telling?
Oh yeah.
One there. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Alchemist. Oh Lord, what's the name of the story?
Draco Alchemicus.
Draco Alchemicus.
Yeah. So this is our third project. We started in 2020 during the COVID lockdowns when everything started to get crazy. So we did a satirical poem based on Alexander Pope's Dunciad, which is called the Centrism Games. Then we moved from there. We did a children's fantasy called Aurora Borealis, which is really beautiful. So if anyone's got kids, or anyone knows anyone with kids, or anyone is still a child at heart, get a copy of Aurora Borealis because it's a beautiful book. But our third project was something a little more mature. We wanted to go a bit darker and work with a more sophisticated themes than we could with the other two genres. So we're working now on this 5-part epic, which is still fantasy. It's still in iambic pentameter, but it's been kind of modeled on the Spenserian fairy queen. And so we've kind of started building an entire universe. Yeah. So
how does she still have a job? Rachel Fulton.
This woman is a machine. I don't know.
Because
she's a machine.
She speaks pretty clearly against sort of the orthodoxy of the universities. But she's good at her job. She's a good history teacher, so she stays.
Oh, she's amazing.
And then how did you get tied in as a writer who joined from Australia?
Well, I was like, we met kind of through Milo chat, because I joined Telegram, and then I was on all these different chat rooms, and so we started talking with each other. And I started looking at her work because she's been doing stuff for ages, and you know, she's been on unauthorized TV for a long time. She's got her own massive body of work there. She does Tolkien videos, and she's done history videos, and she's done interviews with everyone, right? So I was kind of really excited to find her work because the more I was looking at it, it kind of felt familiar in the sense that I thought she's talking about people that think the way I think. It was kind of a magical experience because I hadn't ever looked really at you know, who in the West and who in Western academia was still connected to the old world European thinking. So
right.
so I just kept looking at her work, and it was just resonating over and over and over and over and over again. We kept talking, and then, you know, just one thing led to another, and now we're writing together.
Is
on
the
this massive
room
poem.
and your press, Sandwich Press, and her work, is this, so this is my first question sort of that I formulated.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something like authentic girl power? Is this something like true female? Is this girl power being recast in or coming out of sort of the midst of whatever we've been in with modern female, modern femininity, and the whole movement of the 60s to encourage women to be whatever equal is? Is this the new recasting of female power, true femininity? Is that what's happening? I mean, there's guys involved. Do you have guy writers?
Oh yeah.
Or no?
Yeah. We've in every single project we've done, there have been men that are collaborating with us. Excuse me. We did a stream about this, so like I mean, it's quite funny because neither of us are feminists, but I think a lot of people they make assumptions. Like we the best way I can describe it is that the professor has a very, very clear understanding of the role of women in the church over the centuries. So we've done a stream about this. It's called Galadriel in Armor, where we talk about Amazon rings of power and the absolute destruction of storytelling involved.
Can you do 6 minutes of what is the ring of power for a true woman or something like that? What does power look like?
Well, in our kind of conversation about it, it was that what women have seemed to have been doing is wanting to have the kind of liberation that the saints had, female saints, the same kind of autonomy and independent spiritual path that the female saints had, only they're doing it without Christ. So we're kind of looking at that because, you know, a lot of people are saying women want too much power now over men. They want to have basically a matriarchy, or if not that, they need to have this kind of Me Too attitude towards men, where the assumption is that masculinity is inherently toxic, all of this stuff. Well, neither of us believe this at all. Which, you know, it's like human beings are toxic. and this is the West without Christendom. It's still operating in a framework where they're still thinking about things like sin or the corrupted nature of mankind. The only difference is they're not talking about it like, okay, well, we've been corrupted thanks to the fall of Adam and Eve, our first parents. Right. They'll say, no, there's toxic masculinity instead. So it's like, well, that's true, but it's not what you're saying it is. The truth of it is that the race of Adam is toxic. I mean, we don't have clarity on these subjects because people have removed Christ from the equation. So, I mean, in terms of what power is for women, I mean, what was power for the Virgin Mary? Obviously, she's the most powerful woman that ever lived. She's the second Eve. What was power for her? It was obedience to God. She was sinless. You can't get more powerful than that. No one is going to be more powerful than Theotokos. She's the only woman walking around in the flesh in heaven. So if you're like, oh, I want to be an empowered female, maybe look at that. I don't know.
That's the icon.
It's like, there you go. And so, we've got our icon. She's everywhere. Mary is Europe. So when people are talking about, this inherent sinfulness of the European man and how he's trashed the earth and all of this kind of stuff, well, I mean, look at the piety. The European man hailed Mary for over a millennia. So the feminists have a lot of things right, but they're just not thinking in a Christian way at all.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because all the arguments
It is.
that are bound in these equality conversations about not just with men and women, but race, they all have this element of truth that if you're not paying close attention to, you chase like a fish in the water at a lure. But they never want to transcend or really go layer. They don't want to go layers deep to try to understand the nature of theanthropos, the man as related to God. And then you just get man being man and woman, and then you just get obvious conclusions like that guy's a dead. I got it. I correct.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You're great anthropo. Yes, I am dead, and I can do better. But where did it all come from? Where did all the come from? Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of redoing. It's not feminism, but I have a priest who walked around in Russia. He's a very good friend of mine. Recently. And he was like, one thing that struck me about Russia over and over in Eastern Europe was that the women are seen more like womanly.
Yes.
He was trying to put his finger on what the womanliness was. And it was something like being willing, he said this, being willing to be seen by men. And he used the word truly seen, like all of me can be seen by you, but you don't get to touch, but you get to see. There was something about that where I think in the West, there's a closing down of that femininity, that old school femininity. No?
Well, I mean, old world women are crazy.
Well,
like Russian women are crazy. I went to school with a lot of Russian women. They're intense. It just activated a memory I haven't tapped into for so long.
You should tap into it right now. You should tap into it.
So we went to this nightclub. It was a private club owned by some Russians. Funny. Anyway, I don't even know how I ended up there. But the men are happy for the women to be insane. They're happy for them to be expressive and feminine and unrestrained and emotional because they carry it. That's what I find the difference, between pioneer cultures, the Wild West pioneer culture. Australia is like that as well, where the women have had to be tough, stoic. You're setting up civilization from scratch. People that have entered the wilderness to establish the foundations of something like a civilization. There's no room for the kind of over-the-top dolly girl femininity in those environments. And I'm trying to think now.
I'm hearing
Africa, I don't know.
I'm hearing West Africa in this too.
Same thing.
Very similar.
Very similar. Because I think it's that kind of femininity requires infrastructure. That's kind of what I've learned.
Explain that.
So the church is a kind of infrastructure in this way. Women need the scaffolding of patriarchy in order to establish themselves as truly feminine.
Yeah.
And whenever there is a patriarchal collapse, they lose that ability to be mad. In that, I'm not talking like mentally ill. I mean, the women now are sick mentally. Like there's an SSRI dependency amongst women in Western countries that doesn't exist in the old world. So it's like, maybe it's just you're coming from a culture where the men are just accustomed and grown up to understand that the girls are going to be insane no matter what. You have to hold them in that madness. Because if you don't, you'll damage them, which means you're going to damage your children, because these ultimately are going to be your wives and mothers and grandmothers and, you know,
That's right.
that kind of stuff. So maybe that's why. I mean, like, he's Russian, he's a priest. Automatically, what do you have there? You've got patriarchy, you've got scaffolding, you've got the institutional infrastructure of a society which values masculine and feminine. You know,
But
that's what they've got.
Yeah, history always tells us about this yin and yang. It was always that. I think this is at the core of what Christ is talking about. I'm neither male nor female. Is that in the proper relationship, the distinctions fade because the roles are played properly. In other words, I think about my wife and I. We are really one in the sense that I know her and she knows me, but I don't. It's just like it's just like the incarnation. It's exactly the same thing, which I retain my masculinity, but I lose my identity in her while retaining somehow in a miraculous way my masculinity. And she loses her identity in me while retaining somehow her femininity. And together we become one. Neither male nor female. And I really think it's so, Jordan Peterson talks about this. It's so odd when I get into a zero-sum game with you, that in order for me to be good, you have to serve me. You have to be zero. I have to be one. And it's really that algorithmic thinking. It's that mathematical concept that, you know, we're all one or we're all zero, but we're not going to play a role here. You know, it just drives me mad. But I found that's why I like talking to you the first time. You, I don't know, you had insight. And then I read a lot about Dragon Common Room. And I was going to pay to go in even. Then I thought, I might get outed. Like the way I outed you. Then I'll be like, I'm in Dragon Common Room. Is that good? Because I'm an ortho bro.
Yeah.
I really love.
Well, you did. You outed me. You didn't even know it.
I had no idea. So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
You were on the internet writing a lot of interesting stuff as a genderless, sexless bot.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did people ask while you were back there writing behind the scenes? Did they ask, are you a man or a woman? Did they care? Was it pure intellect? What was it?
80% of the people thought it was a guy writing.
Because of what? You're aggressive. What is it? What was it? I don't get it.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I did play it up. I mean, I didn't tell people. I left it very ambiguous purposefully. But that was for my own reason. But I don't know. Do I sound like a guy when I'm writing? What do you think?
No. Well, okay. In one way, yeah. Okay, this is so pedantic and it's babyish. But you are willing, it's like you're being taught in somewhere, you're willing to have a good fight. it doesn't bother you, and you don't, in your writing, you don't feel afraid. And so if I was reading your stuff, yeah. Now, is that what manhood is? I don't know. On some level, yeah. So yeah, I get that. There's an aggression. There's a willingness to be disturbing.
That's the best summary I've heard so far. Yeah. Well, I am a goth.
Well, maybe that's it. Look, I'm going to tell you.
Maybe.
I'm going to tell you. No, I'm going to tell you. And I want people on, the guys out there, WAWTAR people, I'm just going to tell this person who I really like through the interwebs. You remind me distinctly of an Eastern European woman who will just say to me when I come in, no, this looks, why cut your hair? Looks terrible. You don't have, no, it's too big. Your brain, your head's no good. And then it's done.
Yeah.
But that felt aggressive to me. And every Georgian every Georgian I know, and Russians too, they're right in your grill. And then somehow it's over.
Yeah.
And I think you have that. And I don't know that that's male. I think it's old world.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, I grew up WOG. It's normal.
Wait,
you just call people a
WOG?
I grew up WOG. Yeah, WOG? Means something different in England, apparently.
I think it does. Can you educate us?
So WOG is Catholic Orthodox. WOG is the race category that kind of developed here when Australia suspended its white Australia policy and let all the Mediterranean Catholics and Orthodox migrate here. And when they arrived here, they were called WOGs. Then they started calling themselves WOGs, similar to another racial epithet that gets floated around in the States. And it basically means that you're, you Hail Mary. You're a WOG. If you Hail Mary, you come from the old world and you're not white. So, yeah, I grew up around those people. And it's like you're angry with someone, you just call them a malaka and then you move on. Like, get over yourself. I don't know why this is so strange, but it's probably these are the people I grew up with, This is the way we are.
What we're getting into, what we're getting into is a little bit what I think you're really good at, which is cultural history. Because you're doing it, the white people concept. I think what we mean is what you write about all the time. We mean British sensibilities, the first white empire sensibilities, right? Isn't that what we're talking about when we say white people?
Yeah, I'm not talking about skin tone.
It's the culture. I call them light people. Inheritors of the Enlightenment, the worst part of it, the atheistic part, who set out to make English culture into something like a spear, because it could do proper damage, and it could also clear the way for what is like light people culture. And I think you weren't a part of that in Australia. It just feels like you weren't a part of that.
No, I mean, not at all. My grandmother, she was spending all of her time with fresh off the boats. So it's just been like, this has been just a generational exposure to Mediterranean people, much more than the Anglophone, Anglo-Celtics, and then, relative marries a Orthodox or Catholic or whatever, and then after a while it's just like, well, are we different now? There's we got so many unions, and after a while you start counting and you just think, hold on, the tribe starts to look a bit different. You know what I mean? Like, so no, I'm not opposed to pale people. That would be ridiculous.
Agreed.
This is another form of sickness. It's another form of abandoning Christianity, to have this kind of sickness. Either a hatred of darker skinned or lighter skinned people. It's just sickness. The apostles didn't have this mentality.
I know you said something so cool on one of your posts that I picked up and sent it back to you, which was, maybe you can rephrase it, but
Mm.
it's that in America, in the crucible of enslaved America, there was this idea that this new ethnic group was born, Africans in America,
Oh
African
yeah, yeah,
Americans. Yeah. And
yeah.
that became a real identity, like, obviously. But that identity somehow takes a backseat to the identity of people who forge a new person within a church, like through baptism. And
Hmm.
what did you say? Just tell us. Like, tell us good. I know you can, maybe
I
not word for word,
said,
but I have it. I'll pull it up.
I mean, it was something like white people think that ethnic identity can be created on plantations, but not in a liturgy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I say white, everyone gets triggered by it. I'm not talking about all light-skinned people. I'm talking about whites. Like an Australian would have talked about whites compared to the wogs that were running around here.
That's right.
Because the other thing, too, is I noticed, especially with my grandmother, there was a real sense of being with people that still had their soul attached. Like, she instantly recognized that. Like, she was a very warm person, you know? And she helped them set up when they got here. And so, like, that was the kind of people that she wanted to be around, and people that still had their soul attached. But then, of course, you talk to them and you think, like, why are you different? Because there's no physiological difference. I mean, if I didn't tell you, John, that I wasn't ethnically Greek, would you know?
No.
You wouldn't know. If I said I'm not ethnically Italian, no one would know. Like, it's not a skin tone thing, it's a soul thing, which is then a complicated discussion because you think, okay, what happened? Like I said to you last time, I thought about it a lot. What happened? What happened to the people that lost their soul versus these people that are yelling in the streets? Like, I always used to call them wild children of Zeus, but they have no inhibition. And that's, I think, why people find me quite aggressive. Because I've been around people that are not inhibited. They yell at each other. Like, traffic conditions in a Greek neighborhood is like Thailand, you're screaming at everyone, like, get off the road!
Mm-hmm.
We're not holding in. And yet there's love. That's what I love. Like, that's the thing. These loud old world cultures, which, like, are so furious in 1 minute and then absolutely warm and loving in the next, versus cultures which have kind of developed around what I think is an improper politeness. I think it's improper.
Oh,
But
goodness.
that's my preference. I don't know what you think. I mean, you spent a lot of time in Georgia. How do you find people in Georgia?
Oh my gosh. So here's the joke. As these 10 Americans get driven around by my Georgian friends, this is the joke. Are we going to be able to leave right away, or are those guys going to fight again? Because
Yes.
essentially, every time we pull away from our last stop, we're going to go down 90. We're going down 95. That's really what you're going to do? 95 is stupid. You're stupid. And it's like, I'm going down. And then it's screaming. And then all of a sudden, everyone hops in their car. And then we're going down 95. And all us who have paid to go on this trip are like, these guys are going to fight. And they're not going to fight. They're not even close to fighting. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay,
Yeah.
but identify with me maybe through your cultural awareness of history. The other thing, I call it Midwestern culture in America, which you may or may not be familiar with, but that's the immigrants from Germany and Switzerland, Sweden, essentially, who came and landed in the middle of America, which was the frontier in the early 1800s, and who did really well on farms. But they developed a politeness that I never felt comfortable with growing up, even though I lived there in Wisconsin for years at a time. I think it's that thing you're talking about. which is everything's fine. Nice to see you. I can't wait. And then secretly, I can't wait for you to leave because you're really just really annoying to me. But everything is a smile, and it's false, or it's cowardly. Am I being too harsh?
I don't know if it's cowardly.
It's different. What is
I
it?
don't know.
What's being preserved? What's being conserved? I guess something like peace, or a sense of propriety, because it's definitely like that.
My first thought is, what kind of opponents did they have culturally, like, to develop that kind of?
Yeah. Well, those
Okay,
settlers.
so we talk about the Germans in DCR because they're the vanished ethnicity of North America. So you've got tons of Germans there. We don't have a lot of Germans in Australia. I don't know
Tons
about
of Germans.
tons of
America
Germans,
is
right?
German, essentially.
It's Deutschland 2.0 basically, but you don't speak Deutsche. So all the Germans arrive, and then they're just like hyper assimilationists to the point where they've vanished completely from the face of the earth. No one even no one can find them. Well, why is that? They wanted to assimilate into the Anglo culture, because there was a bit of a tension between the Anglos and the Germans. But for me, I kind of look at that. I think, okay, who were your cultural opponents? Because all the old world people, I suppose, in this sense, from the way I think about it, Catholic and Orthodox Europe, I mean, they had religious wars. They were, under Ottoman occupation. They had to fight against Moorish people. They had to, so there was like this real sense of, we're going to battle it out against people that are going to fundamentally annihilate our religious expression.
Yeah.
Therefore,
Right.
I think maybe it kind of eliminates a lot of bullshit. Like, you go, okay, what are we actually doing right now? We're establishing ourselves and our right to exist, to be able to worship Christ and hail his mother. Okay, so does the fact I'm a little like grumpy today matter? No, not really. Then that kind of snowballs. Maybe.
No.
I don't know.
No. I think you're on.
Then you've got Midwest, like they're wagon people. I mean, did they have to fight anyone? Because from what I've been told,
Native Americans.
Yeah, but from what I've been told, it was like rednecks. Rednecks did most of the fighting. So, like, correct me if I'm wrong though, because I don't know. But
well, you get
who did they fight?
The settlers at that part, Ohio River Valley, and then heading up Wisconsin, Michigan, those settlers, first of all, fought Native Americans, but they fought the French. They fought the Marys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Croissant Kings.
Yeah, that's right. Croissant Kings.
Freaking French.
We're going back for a second, because I think you're onto something, and I don't know that it's true, but we're working with it. The assimilation happens. So the Turks and the Greeks, of course, there's assimilation. Of course, I understand.
Yeah.
But there was an existential conversation there, an existential battle about it wasn't going to be ortho-Islam. Okay, it was either going to be Orthodoxy or Islam, and it was a black or white. And I don't feel the Greeks ever gave they paid a price, but they didn't give up the Orthodoxy. So in a secular culture, though, now that's what America is at its core. In a secular culture, you have a third option, which makes both sides happy, but it also denudes what you talk about, the loud voice, because you can keep your stuff, but if your voice is too loud, you're going to lose your place in society. And the secular option, I think, gave Germans and Poles and who else was out there? The Swedes. It gave them all a place to land where they could be, quote, at peace. But the kind of peace that we look at a dead body and call that peace. Maybe like that? Is that too harsh? I like something like that. Working it out. I don't know. Which becomes the market, which becomes, in other words, the culture it leaves the religious sphere and it enters the marketplace, and then we're judged according to how well we do in the marketplace, which becomes its own culture, which becomes what we're talking about today, which is globalization, and the idea that where there's a lot of positive trade, there's also positive culture. But we know, you and I, that there's no culture there whatsoever. There's actually nothing there. Vending machine, go. Talk about the vending machine, because
The vending machine.
that's what I'm trying to describe, I think.
The vending machine is collapsing, John. So good. I posted something on my channel. I forget who it is. Some Italian guy in America who just said that he was Latino, and everyone's losing their minds.
Because
he's literally Latin, and he said he's Latino, and it's like, this is how brittle you guys are on race. My God.
Oh, we are brittle,
So
girl.
crazy. It's so crazy. Yeah.
It really is crazy.
He's getting it.
He's
getting it. I mean, Italians. Wow, what a problem there. Ugh.
Can we talk for a second about their prime minister? Do you see her speech? I think I pulled it off your channel.
Yeah. Georgia Maloney. Well, everyone's like, she's another globalist. She's not going to do anything, blah, 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 blah. But, I think about Italy differently. Italy's a third world country with a first world northern economic center. Which gives it the veneer of being first world. But actually it's not. It's a third world country. The best of Italy is really third world. It's Africa. And people there don't really pay attention to the government that much. The government doesn't run it. People run it. Mafia run it. Yeah, good or bad, whatever. It's not my country to regulate. I can't make those decisions. But whatever is going on in the north of Italy isn't a reflection of what's going on in the south. And it's not a reflection of, one woman and her ability to kind of reform one of the most corrupt peninsulas in the existence of human civilization. Like, the fact she's saying what she's saying out loud is more of a reflection of Italians behind closed doors and how mad they are at what's going on in Italy. So I saw it. I was like, she could be like literally in bed with Klaus Schwab next week, and it wouldn't matter, because it means that the people on the soil, the terroni, the real the roots people, the folk people, they're not having it. They want their country.
Yeah. So
I see it as a very positive thing. But Italians in America, they assimilated as well. So when I have a conversation about the vending machine and what it's done to all of these different ethnic groups, which I did, that didn't happen in Australia. The Italians didn't get to Australia and kind of think, okay, we're white people now. They just haven't. They're wogs.
They are.
They're wogs, yeah.
They're still the swarthy people, the swarthy Hail Mary people.
Yep. They still Hail Mary. Even if they haven't set foot in a church for 4 years, you ask them about, something, and it's, don't talk about the whatever it is, religion. That's for church. That's still sacred, even if they don't access it very regularly.
The Georgians went through this. The Georgians went through this with the fall of communism. They had to decide what they were going to do. There's an existential battle there too. The Russians aren't helping right now, FYI. If any of your Dragon common room folks are finding any sort of salvation in Russia, be careful, because it's not cool. I see it on our side with a lot of good Orthodox folks.
Yeah.
Don't take that bait. That's a corrupted, secularized orthodoxy that Putin's rolling out, in my humble opinion. Although I love Russians because they'll fight you, but the Georgians are getting
they will.
They're getting squashed, and I love that place so much. And I watch them battle between: are we going to adopt the West? Are we going to go all in with NATO? Are we going to figure out ourselves according to the Western model, or are we going to stay or go into the Russian sphere? Now, what they had for about 10 years was a moment of return to the church. you could see the churches fill up, and the patriarch became the hero. But right now, the patriarch is ill. There's questions about the church vis-a-vis this whole Orthodox Kirill conversation about who's going to stand up to Kirill and should they stand up to the patriarch of Russia as Orthodox people. It's very confusing, and I'm telling you, they could lose a lot of their soul in what's coming. So many Russians in Georgia right now. I don't know if anybody knows that, but there's thousands and thousands of young men there right now, all hiding.
Soldiers, or they're dodging the draft.
They're hiding. Yeah, they're folks who are trying to avoid conscription. Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's a. I'm going off the rails there, but except to say, I think what you're seeing right now is what you were seeing in 1913, 14, and 15. You're starting to see a conversation about. So that was a conversation about modernity and power. Everyone saw modernity coming, and they started to decide who to get with in order to get the next iteration of modernity. And they all had this conversation about who would protect whom. And I see the question now happening all around the world about, is modernity worth betting on? And if it is, who's going to be my ally? And if it isn't, who's going to be my ally? And I saw this woman in Italy say, I don't think I'm taking the NATO bet. I don't know. What do you think? You think she's just speaking on behalf of her peasantry?
I mean, Italians bullshit all the time. It's not just that though. I think a healthy relationship with politicians is where the people are so inflexible that they force the worst people amongst them to at least tell the truth half of the time. That's probably the best solution you could get in terms of a country like Italy. And I mean, they've got a massive problem there, like huge youth unemployment problem. They're infertile. I mean, crazy. Like, oh my God. My grandmother's friends, they came from families of like 14 children, big Italian families. These people are not having children. It's a heartbreaking thing to watch too. You know, when you really love cultures, like when you really love a culture, you don't want it destroyed by mass forced immigration, weaponized immigration. You don't want it destroyed by infertility. You don't want it destroyed by, a kind of globalized economic model, which means that everybody gets their basic wages outsourced to, poorer regions and whatever. So it's like we're all against globalism if we actually love culture. But they got huge problems, and then there's the other issue with people in my generation in that country is that there's a kind of embarrassment about, well, do we return to kind of traditional Catholic understanding of things, or are we going to follow with the Americano, Coca-Cola, or are we going to allow a more Americanized version of what it means to be industrial to influence everything? It's challenging because to, like, in that kind of country, to maintain your roots, and I've got friends which are doing this, they move into their ancestral homelands and then they're clinging to folk culture, but it's a battle to do it because they make enormous sacrifices. And then, talking to them about what happens, well, all of the southern Italians are constantly having to move up to the north to go and work in the factories. So that, they've got their own internal vending machine. It's kind of like this fractal process of industrializing empires and what they do to these traditional folk cultures all over the world. So I don't know what the answer is. I mean,
I don't think there's an answer. I don't think there's a force that stops that. I think what St. Paisios said, Greek saint, died in the early 90s, but basically There's going to be a rush towards something that looks traditional. I think it's happening right now. I think you and I are maybe examples of it. And the rush is into whatever it is, traditional Hinduism, traditional whatever. And then the forces that be, whatever those are, I don't know, call them whatever you want. I'll sound like a conspiracy theorist. They basically get to the real persecution. And then those places that filled up empty out really fast of the people who were looking for something like political salvation because they don't want the martyrdom. And he says at that point you see the churches empty out except for the few martyrs, and they seed the ground for the renewal and maybe even Christ's return, something like that. So how about that? Is it that dire? I think it might be. Who knows? I just went to a great conference, a UMP conference, Uncut Mountain Press.
Oh yeah.
I have to tell you, and I'm telling everybody who's listening, there was so much depth in that place. It was not a political roadshow. It was not. Nice. It was not an attempt to bitch. There was almost zero bitching. I'm serious.
Oh my.
The whole thing was, what is the Orthodox ethos? And I'm telling you what it was. It was quiet prayer over and over again. The thing just kept defaulting. There's a 7.5 hour vigil on Saturday night, which I'd like to say is too long. I would just like to say that right now, because when you stand for 7.5 hours, you're done. And it was fascinating, but it all defaulted to this beauty that was a type of quiet, non-judgmental hope. It was beautiful. I'm telling you, that's the answer. That's the beauty. But nobody wants that 7.5 hour vigil. You want that? Who's doing that? You do that? You guys do that?
Yeah. Night of the Apocalypse. Of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah, I actually had a good conversation with a Coptic friend of mine, and I was talking to her about the situation down here. She said, "Why are Australians so miserable?" She said, "You have everything here." I said, "Yeah, they're really sad. But they don't understand the historical things that have gone on here, you know." So I was kind of talking to her about it. And I said that religion has been bleached out of public conversation in the West. People here, even more than in America, are embarrassed to talk about God in public. She said, "Yeah, there's no martyrs." I said, "Yep, there's not a single native martyr in this country." So we kind of reflecting on what that means. Not that either of us were volunteering to be the first one, but it's that what is the kind of message there? The culture has never had anyone die for anything more than the protection of an economic system. You know, it's like, it's kind of heavy, you know?
Kind of heavy.
Kind of heavy. I mean, and I say this with warriors in my family who went to world wars for the empire. But, you know, I have to be honest about what that was at the same time, you know, like honoring what they did, but still, it was not the same as the Polacks rushing at the Ottoman invasion. I mean, it's just like a different category of warfare than saving the existence of a Christendom, for example. So, yeah, we don't have that as a conversation here. And then even to have a basic, free, and joyful conversation about religion, it's almost impossible in this continent. There's a real deep shame around it. To talk about God in public life, it's a big shame.
Bigger than talking about whether you got the vaccination. Same.
Why do you have to give me trick questions? My God.
But there's probably something similar in that. If you say, "Well,
yeah,
I was praying the other night and I skipped my vaccination booster," are you in trouble in Australia?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
That's why it was good to have lockdown, because I got to meet all the other people that weren't having it.
By the way, that makes sense. That makes sense. They came out. I mean, you couldn't help. You had
Yep.
to find the community, yeah, that you could make sense of. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really wonderful.
Did you make new friends, Kilts?
Yeah. I made some great friends. Uh, weird people, like, and kind of, you know, I mean, it's wild. I don't even know how to begin to describe what it was like down here, John.
Listen, I know that
Man.
I want to talk about that, but I know that you can't sit here forever because you told me that you might have another engagement.
Oh yeah, you've got 10 minutes and then I go run.
I want to shift gears just a little.
All right.
I want to see. I don't know about you. You seem like an interesting person, but there's this test that we've perfected. It's very scientific. When I give this test to you, you will learn the truth about existence. It's that scientific.
Okay.
You know,
You've perfected empiricism.
I have. I've perfected this, and now I'm gonna show you to the world as per your bona fides from the old world. Like, are you old world or not? Okay, here's what I'm gonna do.
All
because
right.
I know that both of us like to go old world, and then basically we, I also have television, and I really want to watch the Mets get beat. But I'm that guy, right?
Yep.
I'm like that jackass. But I would fight. I like to say that I would die for the right stuff, but we'll see. I should watch out what I say in public. But check this out. This test has been perfected, and it's going to test whether or not you're old world or new world. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You ready?
Shoot. Yeah.
I've asked a lot of people this. Jonathan Pajot. We did a lot of people. We did the guy who just did Shantaram. You know that movie that's coming out about the Australian that runs the way to India?
Oh yeah. Free medicine.
He came on, Gregory David Roberts, and he took this
amazing
test. Yeah,
amazing.
It's a good story,
Yeah, he's a legend.
We use it. We use that book, and he came on and talked to our guys. He's wonderful. He's nutty, but he's wonderful. He's now a reggae artist, but he took this. And I'll tell you where he came out too. So here's the test.
All right, let's go.
5 questions. All you got to do is put a number down. I got a pen because I know it's, you got a lot there on your mind. You probably can't keep up with these. This is very mathematic and scientific. So here we go.
Yeah.
Each one of these gets a number. And here's your first question to determine just where you are in the history of the old and new world. When I die, when you die, you won't really die like all the way. It's more like you'll be asleep waiting for some kind of next world, right?
Nap time.
Some kind of thing that's coming. Is that 3 like, oh, hell yeah, I fully believe that? 2, that's probably true. Or 1, that's probably not true. Or 0, oh, hell no, that's stupid.
4.
Okay, so we'll give you a 3 because you're trying to break the test. Okay, 3. Something's happening to you. Okay, here's your second question on the lightometer. Just how much of an enlightened person are you? The best way to get to know you, Kilts, the best way to get to know you is to ask someone else about you, not yourself. In other words, or put another way, the best way to get to know me is to ask someone else about me. 3, hell yeah. 2, probably. 1, probably not. 0, oh, hell no, that's dumb.
Probably 1.
1. Here's your third question on the way to infamy, or I don't know, maybe not. When I carry a picture, or when you carry a picture of your friend or your parent or whatever, and let's say you carry it in your purse or your wallet, you're actually carrying that person around with you. Like they're there. They're actually in some way close to you.
Yeah.
3 being, oh, hell yeah. 2, probably. 1, probably not. 0 is that's dumb.
I'll do 2.5.
Oh, you're going to throw a 0.5 in there. We'll let that happen. That's allowed.
Yeah.
Here's the 4th question. 5 total. Respect is not earned. It is owed by you to others. 3, 2, 1, 0. Respect is not earned.
I don't like that question.
No, but that's part of the test. This is why it's a great test. It's like that test they did at Stanford when they were like when they were electrocuting people. It's a good test. Respect is not
Respect is
earned.
not
It's
earned.
owed by you to others. Play the music, Andrew.
No, because it's a conditional. It's a conditional answer.
I know you're gonna have some fancy dragon common room answer. I know. Gonna
Yeah, because
intellectualize it.
where are they on the hierarchy? What have they done?
Respect is not earned; it's owed.
No, I'm gonna say 0. It's
0.
earned.
Okay, look at that.
Yeah, it's earned. Respect is earned.
I love it. Okay, this is your
courtesy is
question.
Free. Courtesy is free.
Not respect. Okay.
Respect is absolutely the most valuable thing on earth.
I love it. Listen to you. Final question. I can't wait to live with my parents in one big house when they get really old. Or if you don't like that, is if you're a parent, which I don't know if you're a parent, but I can't wait to live with my kids when I get really old. So 3, 2, 0, 1, 0, 3, hell yeah, 0, hell no.
Oh yeah, we build skyscrapers. We just stack generations on generations.
Oh God,
it's stacks on stacks.
So your answer?
Yeah, apartment building. Yep.
No, I can't wait to live with my parents in one big house when they get really old. / I can't wait to live with my kids when I get really old. 3, hell yeah.
3.
2,
yeah, 3.
1, 0, 3.
3.
Okay, now here's what's going to happen. Congratulations, you finished. I'm calculating your score. Play the music, Andrew. So 3, 4, 6.5, 9.5. Here is the scoring chart. If you scored a 0, you win the Francis Bacon Award. You think old world thinking has the same appeal to you as placing leeches on an open sore. But you did not score a 0. Did you score 1 to 3? If you did, you would have been the high nooner. The bright light of the new world hovers at high noon for you, Kilts, but it doesn't. Just right there, it's shining down on you. You are truly in love with manuals and all things scientific, but that's not you. If you scored a 4 to 6 on this, between a 4, 5, or 6, you would have been the shining city dweller on the hill. You came close. You have hope for the modern world because you trust science and you love Reddit. Okay, and number, if you know what that is, I don't know if you know what that is. 7 to 11. This is you. Are you ready? 7, 8, 9, or 10. Sorry. You are the suburban. You feel romantic about the old world, but hierarchy is a word that you'd rather read about in a book. It feels like you should want to obey your elders a lot more than you actually do. The individual is not more important than the group. The individual is not more important than the group to you, except, well, sometimes you feel more important than lots of dumb assholes out there. So there's always that. You are not a villager. You are not winning at 15 the Charlemagne Award. That's when you're full retro. And that's, you are not that. So you are a suburbanite. I was too. I scored a 9. My sister scored a 14, the highest score of anyone who's ever taken it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, watch out for her.
Okay. She's impaling.
And my friend Seth, who comes on the show, who is a true New Worlder, scored. Actually, he scored not bad. I think he scored a little lower than us. I wanted you to take that test because I think it's a challenge to try to think about who we really are and what we say we are, because it's pretty hard to be anything but what our culture says we are, you know, in a lot of ways. And by the way, the test could be a total disaster, which it probably is. But
someone made me do this test. No, I'm glad you did. No, the respecting the hierarchy thing. I think that's got a big part of like what kind of hierarchy we're talking about, because we don't really have familiar hierarchies anymore. I mean, when you say like hierarchy, in a different situation, are we talking about corporate, or are we talking about social, or are we, you know, like it's conditional. So,
well, let me ask you.
but I'm comfortable with that. I'll stay in the burbs.
Well, I think the one that brought your score a little down, away from old world and toward new world, was your conversation about respect.
Yes.
I just go back again. A lot of this is based on my experiences in Africa, but this older brother, younger brother, older sister, younger sister thing, it's crazy, man. There, it's crazy. At least it was. It's fading now. But like, if you're just 2 years younger and you sit down and your brother's sitting there and he says, "Go get me some water," you just go. You just go. And then you come back, give him the water, and then you sit down until someone else tells you to do something. What I'm talking about is a deep, profound obedience. We obey, but we first rationalize the obedience. And I think that's what you're getting at there when you're like, no, wait a minute, you gotta earn my respect. I feel that's very new world, for better or worse.
Yeah, it's also a part of being in a multicultural kind of system.
I get that.
Because we're still tussling for territory all the time.
Oh, this is interesting. So across cultures, maybe the hierarchies don't hold.
They don't hold, no. Yeah. It's shifting like this. So if you're in Africa, in that situation, because I know what you're talking about, it's just age. Yes. You know, if you're a parent, you are an adult. Yeah. If no matter what age that starts. If you're a grandmother, the ground you walk on is holy. Like 100%, just 100%. I know what you mean. It's like a profound kind of respect there. But that's internal to a particular kind of social system. What happens, I think, with us is I'm looking at another kind of culture and thinking, okay, I don't know your rules. I don't know your hierarchy. It's not like looking intra-tribally at your own people and you kind of understand how things work. Maybe that's what my problem with it is. But
I think you're actually describing the mark of someone who lives in the new world and who's been raised by it. The thing got broken down, so by definition, you imbibe some of these values. Like, in other words, I imbibe the values of the new world, yet I'm doing an analytical thing about how great it would be to live in the old world. That's a weird thing for like a little villager in Kailan where we work. He can't jump around intellectually and see the different hierarchies. Not because he's dumb.
Yeah. No.
He's not subject.
He's rooted.
What's that?
He's rooted.
He's rooted.
Yeah.
But the rootedness creates a meekness that, I'm going to be honest with you, when I took the test, I don't like that. I rebel against that meekness, for better or worse. And I think that's what Christ is talking about. The meek will inherit the earth. He's not talking about someone who has meek thoughts when he reads the Bible and then goes off and he's a lawyer at Wall Street. He's talking about someone who literally can't do almost anything else but be meek. It's like in Shantaram with, what's his name? Prabhu. He just gets down and you walk on his back so that you can not be in the mud. But he's in the mud. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. That's a whole kind of meekness that I don't think we understand in the West, in the New World. I don't think we get it. Well, I don't think we like it.
But in DCR, we have this conversation a lot about like landed people and also maritime people, maritime culture, and how that's different. So if you're shifting between hierarchies, shifting between all these cultures, you're in a maritime environment where you can't, by definition, be rooted. Because you have to negotiate with all of these different hierarchies constantly because you're moving. That's the kind of Phoenician outlook. It's like you're on the waves. So you have to be able to fluidly move between all of these different city-states. You have to, which is, again, like, it's like, okay, every city-state is an individual little hierarchy.
Right.
With its own rules and its own internal politics and its own dialect and its own, even spiritual outlook or whatever. So if you're moving like this, you're on the sea. It's like we always talk about it in DCR as we're pirates, because in the New World, pirates, that pirate culture, that Elizabethan pirate culture, it's like moving landed people, which the British were, into the waves and then pushing them throughout the world, and then having to constantly do this. So
That is brilliant.
there's a difference.
Yes, yes. We
Landed versus
become,
maritime changes you. The ocean changes you.
but also there's an allegorical understanding that because my mind can go places, that I become principled in the way a maritime culture would be principled, because my mind is not rooted. In other words, I
Yes.
become maritime in my thinking, not just because I got on a boat or anything.
Yep.
It's the very nature of my thinking is that way. Whoa, I get that.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Another reason
Now-
to go to the Dragon Common Room.
Now imagine what the internet does in terms of the effect of.
Oh my gosh, it's like a nuclear explosion.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
everyone's being drawn into that.
Yep. We're all on the high seas now. That's this like global panic over COVID, you know? It's like all of a sudden there's a pandemic and we're hearing about, you know, a little flu infection in a village in India, whereas 100 years ago you'd never hear about it.
Yeah.
You could have an entire plague in India and no one in Spain would have even heard about it until possibly, you know, someone had like traveled with the news of this, oh, there was this plague in India. But we're in this huge structure of electricity and it functions like the ocean. And now it's like, okay, everything that happens in one spot instantly goes in the other spot. So yeah, like for DCR, we take a lot of inspiration from Marshall McLuhan's work on the effect of media and what it does to the human psyche. But I mean, Christ called fishermen. He called maritime people. So to say that it's wrong is not necessarily correct.
I like that. It's not a wrong.
No.
Maybe it's a necessary yin and yang. Maybe it's a necessary light to a dark. Maybe it has to be that way. Maybe that's how salvation comes. Maybe that's how we all figure it out in the end, is because there's these two types of people. I just think again about men and women. I can only find my salvation. I can only find it in the other. Maybe, I don't know. These are deep. That's really nice way to maybe tackle the end of that.
Pirates.
Yeah. Let's go into that next time. Thanks for taking my test.
Thank you for testing me.
Yeah.
Throwing me in the suburbs.
Yeah, you're in the suburbs. I always think if you weren't in the suburbs and you lived in Australia, man, what are you doing? Like, you must be an Aborigine that just came in for a video chat. Like, maybe like first time on television or something. I don't know. Forgive me if I said something wrong. Am I in trouble? Did I say Aborigine and something wrong?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
No, go for it. That's a different conversation.
All right. Next time.
Are
you going off to do some like important stuff? Are you going to an important meeting to give a speech or something?
I got to go and chase some kangaroos around a paddock now.
Nice. I love it. You did an Australian joke.
I did.
All right.
To be continued. To be continued.
I hope so. I mean that. We like your aggressive writing / funness. You're fun. I hate that word, but I used it. Because you'll come back and we'll keep talking. Next time maybe we'll pull up a book. I'm going to send you my book. And then
please do.
It'll get there. Will it get to Australia? Well, should I even bother?
Yeah. They opened up the Great Wall now.
Okay. I'm going to send it to you. Because I think as
that would be amazing.
Quote, creative person, I think hopefully it lands with you and then we can talk about it. Or you send me your stuff. Well, I see your stuff all the time. So keep going. We love you. we'll consider you a friend of the show, and maybe what we'll do is we'll have the professor come on one of these days. That'd be cool.
Oh, yes.
I would like that. I would like that.
Yeah.
Okay, sister, I'll see you later. I'll check out.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks for coming on. Say hi to our friend Richard, the editor of Gab. An editor of Gab, I should say. See you later. Peace.
Ciao, ciao.
Yeah. Thank you. Kilts. Guys, I do think this person, Kilts, you will not see the last of her. She is an active thinker with some deep intellectual roots, and also she's fun. So thanks for coming on. We'll get her back on down the future. She started becoming a recurring guest, not unlike Father Uncle Seth. Look for him coming up. Support us. First Things Foundation. We're in a drive. We're not in a drive. Are we in a drive like a Jerry Lewis telethon thing? 2 minutes with Molly's coming up, and she's gonna talk to you guys. That's a segment we've got coming up for you soon, if you haven't already seen it. But we're in a drive to move toward funding for 2023. We can't wait to fund ourselves, and we hope you will help us. When you donate to us on a monthly basis, you get access to our class this fall that'll take place at our restaurant. If you're in Greenville, come on in and join the crew. We'll talk more about that soon. If you're not in Greenville, donate monthly or quarterly or annually, and guess what happens? You get access to our class. The class this year, get ready. I'm going to send an email soon. The class this year will be called The History of Love. It's a remake of a course I used to teach, but with all the 2022 bells and whistles. So we'll do a lot of cool reading, and we'll look at the nature of love, sort of the three natures of love, and how they are found in history, especially in the institution of marriage, how they look over time. I hope you'll join for the History of Love. That'll be starting the middle of November. We'll shoot right through the holidays and right into February. And when we do it, we'll do it on the weeknights, and we all jump on and we have a conversation after a number of interludes with history. So that's on the website. You can find it coming up, and I'll send an email to all you recurring donors, and you'll have access to the portal. There's more to say. Stay with us at First Things. We love you. It's a good crew. Thank you for being part of our little corner of the world. Peace.